Okay, so I'm going to go through some photos here of the lagoon project and sort of go over some of the things that they've said, why it needs to be done. And I'm going to start with this photo, which is 1924, and their whole thing was saying that this was all filled up with Caltrans dirt. And so this is way before Caltrans, and you can see down in that corner, right corner there, those are the rocks of Old Joe, so that straight back would be the end of the colony, so you can see that there is no lagoon back behind the colony, and this wasn't filled in behind anywhere with Caltrans. The only place it probably would have been filled in was where that one little piece has been filled in right there to there, because that's about where maybe, you know, just beach side of the old Little League fields would have been. Okay, let me see how to do this. Alright, so that's 1924. There's no big lagoon. It's just a dry creek bed. Okay, so this is like 1972. They always said that everything is like covered in Little League fields, and you can see that over here, right in there, that's where the Little League fields were. Okay, so and look where the how big the beach is and everything. It's all, you know, in front of the Adamson house. It's not coming out in front of the Adamson house. And then you also have a lot more area away from the Adamson house, because right now the creek is running out right up through here. All this has been taken out. It's basically that corner right there. So all that stuff has been removed because they cut into the side of the bank. Okay, this is like 79, straight out. Here's 1976. You can see that it's just going straight out to sea. See where the Little League fields are, close to the highway, not way out in the lagoon like they kept telling everybody. Everybody thinks that, you know, they said it was covered in Little League fields, and it's not. You know, this was just like dry, you know, during this pretty much all the time until it rained, and then it would just sort of, you know, go off into the creek. But we used to ride around on mini bikes back there. Okay, this is the Little League fields. Okay, this is looking back at Cross Creek right there. That's where the Little League fields were, and that's basically what the where the parking lot is. And actually, when they say that it was all covered in fill, the Little League fields were below the level of the highway by like 10 feet. You had to come down that driveway. You can see the bank right in here, and then over on this side of the highway where like Super Carriers and Guido's restaurant over in here, it was the same level. So here's the picture. This is the Little League shack, like the snack shack behind the Little League field, and basically the parking lot would be about at this level. If this was there right now, just the top of this would be sticking out. Okay, there's some. This is what, you know, the Wave used to do. There's Steve Dunn. There's Alf Laws. Angie Reno. There's Jay Riddle. These are all Third Point. Third Point used to be insane. There's Jay Riddle again out at Third Point. I don't know who this guy is, but he's getting a really nice wave at Kiddie Bowl. Same with this guy. You can just see this thing double bubbling. Look at that. Just perfect Kiddie Bowl. It used to be like that all the time before they did this project. There's Alan Sarlo. Okay, this is what happened when, this is why the project totally ruined this thing and why they decided to redo it. This is probably like 86 or something. You can see they just did some random cuts into it to decide that, you know, you can see where the bank should have been. They just cut into this bank, and then on the east side, which is a real fatal flaw too, right on this side, right here, they cut in here trying to make the, you can see that, there's the Adamson house. They tried to get the creek to come over to the Adamson house. Like, that whole side would have been, that's what forced the creek up the point, and they cut into that, bringing it closer. And this, you can see that, you know, all of a sudden now, instead of having a big point where all those other pictures I showed there's all that sand, now the thing is filling up sideways and slowly, so it doesn't, it fills up slowly and then it went out sideways. This is just the weirdest looking thing. Okay, and this is what, happens now when the thing fills up in the summer. It just, I mean, now we don't even have a point. This is like the summertime. There's a lake back there. The water's filled up, and now we have actually, the point has receded back into the lagoon. This is what it looked like right after they did it in 1983. That's the same angle as that other picture, 1983. This is 1983. That's the same angle. This is what in October of this last year is what happens. They keep saying that they're going to do this thing so it'll get better tide influx and stuff and better tide flow. And so I cut the creek in October. Well, I shouldn't say I did. Somebody did. So basically, this is a wave coming into the lagoon up at the very western part of the lagoon. And then this is from the bridge inside the lagoon, because the big claim is that this thing doesn't have any tidal influence or any circulation. But you can see in this photo right there, those little riplets. I know it looks like there's something going because of the filming off the computer, but down through here, that's from a wave coming up into the lagoon. So right there, that's a little wave coming in. Here's the bridges. These kids are out on the bridges all the time. The bridges are going to be taken out because they say that they restrict the water flow. And so that's the same angle at low tide. That's the other thing they say, that there's no tidal flow in here, and that's low tide. So that's behind the colony. That's the first channel behind the colony at high tide. And then that's what happens at low tide. So the water is going in and going out when the breach point is in the right position. There's a bunch of kelp that was pushed up behind the bridges. Again, they say there's no tide flow, but there's enough tide flow to push a bunch of kelp behind the bridges. There's the second channel going straight out to the lagoon. There it is at low tide. This is behind the second channel, looking back to the back of the lagoon, and there it is at low tide. Again, it has total flow, tidal influence. The problem is when the creek starts going out in front of the Adamson house, then it makes it harder for the water to get all the way back there. This is a big lie. This is what they say that the existing channels look like. They want you to believe that these channels behind there are steep and pinched, and that what they're going to do is make them look like this, wide and flowing. And then this is exactly what's back there, which is more like what they expect it to look like that. I mean, that's more like exactly what they're talking about as far as what the existing channels are or the proposed channels are going to be. Okay, this is from behind the back of the channel. That's kelp that's gotten pushed all the way into the back of the lagoon with the tide that they say doesn't work back there. Again, some more kelp that's been pushed all the way in. There's just the pictures of the lagoon with all the birds hanging out. They say there's no life in there, but they're all in there eating. They also say that the birds are bothered by the bridges, that this having the humans in there really bothers all this stuff, and you can see that he doesn't really mind. These are all taken. I'm just right on the bridges taking pictures of these birds. They're not more than 10 feet away from me. They really could care less. Same with that. They're in there. They don't know any difference. Their lifespan doesn't go back to when there was no bridges in the lagoon. Same with that. These guys are right, just hanging out by the bridges. They're not scared away by anything. There's another one. Same thing. That's just from behind the lagoon. Again, they say in back channels it's all mud and dirt and nothing, it's dead, but that's just packed with birds looking in the mud. Bunch of birds. Okay, here's another lie about what they say. If they take out the bridges, which is what they want to do, that it won't be that much farther to go all the way around the lagoon to go to the beach. So what they do is they make this thing here. This is where you pay to park, but then really where you park is up in here. So they've made it so they say that, well, it's only about 170 feet longer to go around the lagoon, but they measure from the parking where you pay, not where you park. and then they put a bunch of extra little, like, random things to make it longer so that it evens out. But if you have to park up here, it's way further to go all the way around. And the best way to the beach is straight through the lagoon, where all these kids get to do their science projects and stuff and come out and look at it and be part of the lagoon. So that's just like, here it is stretching the truth about how far it is to the beach. Here's the old lifeguard tower that John Baker was in. You can see it's right in front of the Adamson house there. And you can see that in the background how far the beach is. There was a volleyball court right out there. This was a permanent lifeguard tower, didn't have to move. You can see these, the pilings right there that it was sort of built on. But that's the fence around the Adamson house. Now that's the same angle. Those are those pilings. This happens every year now because of the way the creek flows out. State parks, if you're worried about how gentle they're going to be, you can see that's the coral tree, and they just came in right after that and ripped that tree right out of there that had been there for 40 years. This is what happens now because of the size of the lagoon. The water fills up at such a rate that it just keeps creeping in front of the Adamson house, and you can see how close it's gotten to the Adamson house now. You can see that that whole side bank right there has been eaten away. And then it comes in front of the Adamson house. This was last year. And then it does this. As everybody knows, it goes down in front of the Adamson house and goes out into First Point. Okay, this is the whole new plan, which, they talk about having dead-end channels. Well, as it sits right now, there's only 2 dead ends in, 2 end channels, endpoints in the back of the lagoon. This plan will actually have 5. 1, 2, 3, no, 4. 4 dead end, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dead end channels. And actually this channel right here at the top will have wind-driven circulation pushing back into the corner of it. So it's, they talk about it being, I don't know. Anyways, it just makes no sense. There's potentially 5 dead-end channels now as opposed to what they claim are dead-end channels. At the bottom you can see this is why they designed this thing out here, was when it was breached in 2004. And so they say that this thing is based on having better tidal influence because it's pointed more towards the ocean. Well, it doesn't breach there. It breaches all the way down in front of the Adamson house, like everybody knows, because what happens is when the tide goes in and it goes into the side channels here, every time the tide comes out, it doesn't just go straight back out. It goes in, and as it comes back out, it goes at a little bit of an angle. So it keeps pushing that breach across to the beach. It doesn't just go up, tide in, out, and then straight back down. Doesn't do it that way. That's why the breach is always meandering. All this water, as it drains back into the main channel, comes across, and it flows and it pushes the breach point out. So as far as getting a breach point, we always need to maintain it. That's the thing. It's always going to meander now because of these side channels and the way that wind pushes all the water down. It pushes everything down towards the Adamson house. Okay, this is what's going on right now with this is the typical setup. We've got a shrunken point with an inner sandbar because there's not enough force. It's all the force going out has been just like lost. So the lagoon is emptying out here. We got a huge sandbar right in the center, and then it comes up here. So in order for the water, when it's breaching out down in front of the Adamson house, for it to get back in the lagoon, it has to come up, go around the sandbar, back here, and then back up into these channels. Where the real thing that would fix everything is that it needs to be breached up at the top. Like that. So this is what it looks like. So this is their plan. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dead-end channels. This one actually pointed with the wind so that when we get wind and it's going to blow into a dead end. And that's pretty much it. So as far as getting a breach point, That's really what we need to get. And so anybody that thinks that, we're going to get a breach point up at the top of the point again like this with this plan is not going to happen.